I want to do the same, if not more, for young people, especially my young girls back in Ghana. We raised about, I think, just over £1,000, which we managed to support about 400 girls to schools, and leaving the girls feeling empowered. And, you know, one of the young girls wrote a letter after the session and handed it to us. You know, she quickly wrote a letter, and in the letter she said, "Thank you so much for making me feel as though I am capable of changing the world." I had some pretty amazing experiences that I still think about till this day. And for example, so I grew up, I'm a London girl through and through, born and raised in London. And I was born in Tottenham, Broadwater Farm Estate. Some people might know, it's like, oh, okay. But very soon after I was born, we moved away, and most of my life has been in Finsbury Park. But I grew up in a single parent household, and that has definitely shaped, I guess, molded me into the kind of woman that I am today, knowing that I grew up in a household where my mum is still my everything in regards to her being so hardworking. She having to obviously play the role of mum and dad in a household where she has 3 kids, one of whom has sickle cell anemia. And so just seeing how she went through every day just to make sure that we were okay is definitely something that has molded me into the kind of person I am today.
Amazing. And you grew up in Broadwater Farm?
Well, from what I remember, we weren't even there for up to a year, but then North London is home.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could have swear I saw you in one of those OFB videos. Just in the background trying to blend in.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because sometimes my mum is like, she knows probably some of the, other aunties that are still there. And it's like, oh God. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and you spoke about how one of your siblings had sickle cell anemia, which with you in the line of work you're doing right now in the world of medicine, did that play a part in you going down the path you're in now?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of the major reasons, just us growing up and with the nature of sickle cell disease. And for those who are listening or watching who don't know what sickle cell disease is, it's a hereditary blood disorder. So you're born with it. And basically, normally our red blood cells are round donut shaped, whereas with sickle cell patients, they're in the shape of a moon, crescent-like. And what that means is sickle cell patients are more prone to having blood clots, but also their blood getting clogged in their different joints, perhaps in their brain, also in their heart, which can lead to strokes, painful crises, and just generally it's not an easy condition to live with. So growing up, we were in and out of hospital quite a lot, and just seeing from the perspective of an eldest daughter, having a younger brother go through that, and having the healthcare professionals in the country, I guess, show their love and support in regards to helping him feel better, but also us as a family. I thought, this is something that I definitely want to do for other people out there. So yeah.
What did it do to you seeing your brother in, I'm assuming, because I've heard different people with sickle cell experience different symptoms, and some people get very painful symptoms, some people end up with lifelong illnesses or ailments that affect them throughout the rest of their lives. I'm not too sure how it's affected your brother specifically, but what was it like seeing your brother go through everything he's going through in and out of hospital with sickle cell?
Definitely. I think for anybody it is a tough experience, but also coming from a household where, as I mentioned, it's just my mum and us. I'm also the eldest daughter, and we always, I feel like it's not spoken enough, but eldest daughter syndrome is very real. Automatically, you're the second mother of the household. So in a way, it's like seeing your little brother, but also kind of low-key your little baby. So seeing him go through that, and you mentioned like the painful crises, the pain is excruciating. And so when you're seeing them in that pain, or for example, one of the complications is having a stroke, which I've seen firsthand, how it can literally affect one side of your body, go weak, you can't move, and sometimes it can even affect your speech. So when you see that, it's honestly heartbreaking, but with treatment and with the support of some amazing medical staff, he's been able to recover from their situations. But that's not the story for everybody. And it's important to note that with sickle cell anemia, you will have an individual that has crises like every so often, but then you also have individuals that are pretty much okay and don't really experience crises. It's a spectrum.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then what was your school experience like for you?
You know what? when I think back to primary school, I was completely the opposite. Very shy, just keeping to myself. But then secondary school, things changed for me. I always say that secondary school is where I really came out of my shell. And that is in the case of me building that confidence. But I also, I guess, stepped into that role of always wanting to speak up and help others. So secondary school was an amazing experience where I started to build the foundations of who I am today.
And how did that come about? How did that, you coming out of your shell in secondary school, was it like just a natural progression, or did you go through some experiences that you felt led you to become the person you were?
I would say it's actually a mixture of both. Natural progression, yeah. Also, I had some pretty amazing experiences that I've still, I still think about till this day. And for example, secondary school was where I built my somewhat relationship with Michelle Obama, and having those interactions with her whilst I was at secondary school definitely, I guess, propelled the confidence and the motivation to want to do more for other people, to be more in my leadership capacity, but emphasis on serving others.
Okay, let's talk Michelle Obama. I was on your YouTube channel and I watched that interview you done with her, and you mentioned that you've met her a few times.
Yeah.
In 2009, when you were part of her choir. In 2012, you were flown over, you and some people from your school flew over to the White House, and then obviously in that interview.
Yeah.
How was that experience, like you meeting her, especially those two first times in 2009 and 2012?
Yeah.
What was that experience like, and how impactful was it for you?
Yeah. I always find it very hard to put into words, but also it doesn't help that, okay, in 2009, I was was I 10 years old? 10, 11 years old. Then in 2012, when we went to the White House, probably 14, 15. So I was still very young at that age, and having those interactions or opportunities with her, I don't think I fully understood or comprehended those moments as much as I would have now if they were to happen again. And for me, I think, as I mentioned, it's definitely one of those experiences that catapulted, the confidence and the need for me to serve others, and just having the mindset that, okay, yes, you might be a woman, yes, you're also black, but you shouldn't have that mindset of letting that stop you from doing what you truly want to do, especially in relation to serving your community. And some key messages that she highlighted, and one especially is about failure. We always talk about failure, but for her, what she really emphasized was it's okay to fail. And I think people need to get comfortable with failing and just see it as an opportunity to learn and to progress and do better the next time around.
With so after you've done you've done school, you've done whatever, etc., and then after you've done university, and you've trained and you've gone into medicine, you've trained, gone into medicine, that kind of thing. How did can you explain what melanin medics is?
Yeah.
And how that came about?
Yeah, definitely. So Melanin Medics is a non-profit organisation based in the UK, and essentially we are the UK's largest intergenerational charity for African and Caribbean medical students and doctors in the UK. And what we do is, through all the services that we provide, all the work that we do, we aim to diversify medicine, widen aspirations, and aid career progression of anybody that has a desire to study medicine, is studying medicine, and is working in medicine. So yeah.
How did that come about?
So Melanin Medics came about, we turned 5 years.
And what's your role within Melanin Medics as well?
So we turned 5 years last year, but how do we come about? So one of my good friends, Alamide, who's also currently a doctor as well, she started a blog in relation to how when she got into medical school, literally nobody around her looked like her. So she started this as a blog, and then eventually there are about five of us in total at the time where we came together and sat down and thought, okay, well, we definitely need to do more than just simply write a blog saying what's going on. We can literally make an impact and essentially change the face of medicine. So that was about 5 years ago. 5 of us became founding members, and yeah, we are here today, I guess.
That's it. At what stage at what stage did you realize or say to yourself that you want to do, so you're doing the medicine, obviously, and studying and becoming a doctor, but at what stage did you say to yourself that you wanted to do more than just that? Like melanin medics obviously is one aspect of it. But when did that come? Did you always know you wanted to do more on top, or did that come to you through some kind of experience?
I think naturally, definitely from secondary school, I've always been somebody that I feel like I'm destined, or it's my God-given purpose to always do more and give back. So through secondary school, seeing myself in different roles, like being a year mentor, looking after the younger years, serving on different boards in secondary school. But then there was a point transitioning into A levels and early years of medical school where I really took a step back from wanting to do and be more. I think those few years, it could probably be about 4 years, I thought to myself, okay, well, at that time I really thought, looking at where I've grown up and the kind of school that I'm going to, am I really actually going to achieve this dream of becoming a doctor, knowing that, okay, most people are white, rich, either your mum or your dad's a doctor, if not both, and you have easy access to work experience opportunities. They have money to pay for all these different courses, and medicine is really, really competitive to get into in the UK. So I thought, well, I need to get away. And I was encouraged to apply to a private sixth form. But obviously I was thinking, money where? And those private sixth forms are actually more expensive than university.
Wow.
And it's not like you can take out student finance to go to sixth form. So I was like, they were like, oh, there's a scholarship, you can apply. It was 50%. I still applied anyway. I got it, and we were still like, yeah, no, we can't afford it. And these times, the fees at that time was around 7K a term.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they phoned my mum to say, yeah, she's got 50%. She was like, thank you, but we still can't afford it. And they were like, okay. A week later, they called to be like, we really want her here. We'll give her 100%. I was like, oh my gosh. So for the following 2 years after secondary school doing my GCSEs, I was at a private sixth form in central London. Literally completely different. You go from 30 students making noise, annoying the teacher in one class, to like 7 or 8 where you have proper focused attention. When it's the holidays, you have like Easter revision classes, all these exam practice resources, and then for those who want to study medicine, you have like literal master classes of how to do these exams, interview practice. And that is what really got me thinking, well, not a lot of students who are black or from disadvantaged lower socioeconomic homes know, first of all, to even apply or give themselves a chance to go to a private sixth form, and yet they also fully deserve that opportunity. And sometimes it's also about a confidence thing. You just feel as though you don't belong, and that really sort of, I guess, planted the seed of, okay, well, there's something that needs to be done for people who are like me that are unable to access these opportunities. Hence melanin medics coming along 2 years down the line. So that is definitely what got me into, you know, knowing that I am definitely more than medicine. And there's this saying that I always say, like, medicine is within me, but it is not all of me. I love medicine, I love being a doctor, but there's just more that I also love doing and more that I am called to do.
Perfect. And then you got I watched your TED talk as well.
Oh yes.
How did that come about?
How did that come
and
about?
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. So sometimes I even forget about that. So actually 2021, TEDx NHS must have put out a tweet saying they're looking for speakers. And I think somebody that I knew within their healthcare space, I think he's a doctor as well, he must have tagged me in response to that tweet. I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Fast forward to last year, around April, May time, they reached out to be like, well, would you be interested in speaking? Why not have a chat with one of the coaches? So I had a phone conversation with one of the coaches, and she was basically just asking, like, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, I guess more so on the kind of work that you do. We had a general conversation, and she was like, okay, well, if you were to do a TED talk, what would you mainly be speaking about? And at that time, obviously the idea wasn't, I didn't really think I would do a TED talk. So having an idea of what I would even speak about, it wasn't really there, but I knew it's definitely going to be something EDI, representation related in medicine, of course, in relation to melanin medics. So we had that conversation. She really liked the topic and thought this is something that people need to hear. So she was like, okay, write this stuff down, get it back to us, and we'll see. So then they got back to me, confirmed that, okay, well, you're going to be one of our speakers. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm happy, but now the pressure is getting worse. So with TEDx NHS, you get given some TED coaches. I wrote my first draft. It was rubbish. They looked at me, they were like, Khadija, this is not a TED talk. I said, wow, you guys hurt my ego. I speak. I do public speaking. Then you're telling me this is not a talk, but okay. So then they literally, I would call it an intervention, where they literally went deep trying to get emotion out. And naturally, I'm somebody that doesn't really speak about my emotions that much. So they were really getting to the why. And then when I was answering their questions, they were like, this is what people want to hear. I was like, okay, fine. So I went back, did a second draft, read it out to them. They started crying. I was like,
wow.
So this is what you want. You want people to cry. But yeah, that was done. And then it's just like, I think I had a month to memorize, rehearse, and then did it in end of August. But that was, I would say, a 3 to 4 month process. But what made it also hard was, yes, I'm still working full-time as a doctor. I had a lot of work travel, so I had to go to America to give a talk. Then I went to Ghana to do my charity work, and balancing that plus also trying to write a TED talk. It was crazy, but we made it, thank God.
Let's talk about the Like Her project now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you spoke about your charity work that you're doing, so I'm assuming you're referring to the Like Her project.
Yes. Wait, in relation to what part?
You said that you're trying to juggle everything and you're doing your charity work and
medicine. Yeah. In the middle of the whole TED's experience. Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you actually, what I want to touch on here. So Like Her project, doing something back home in Africa in Ghana it's completely different.
Don't come and trigger me. God.
For me, it's one of those ones. It's like, wow, like that's so different.
Yeah,
it's so left field. And how do you even where do you begin with something like that?
Yeah. So the Like Her project, literally, that's my baby. So basically, towards the end of medical school and no, it was actually in the pandemic. So yeah, I guess towards the end of medical school, and things were really taking off for melanin medics, especially after obviously pandemic and Black Lives Matter. People were really starting to open their eyes to, okay, yeah, racism is a real thing, although it's been there for several years. Now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my gosh, and health inequalities, and Black patients are more likely to die of different things. So melanin medics, exponential growth, and we expanded the team. We're now I guess 20 to 30 of us, and we're doing really well. But deep down, and again, this goes back to my mum. Yes, we were born and raised here, but she made sure that, okay, growing up, there's no English in the household. So we all speak Tree fluently. She's like, yeah, you learn English in school. But it got to the extent where I go to school now and I'm speaking Tree with the teacher. They're like, they phoned my mum literally during the day to be like, she's saying something, but we don't really understand. So literally summer holidays every 2 years we're back home in Ghana, and I really commend her for instilling that sense of home within us. And so after the whole growth of melanin medics, I knew that, okay, I'm happy doing so much for young people in the UK, but I want to do the same, if not more, for young people, especially my young girls back in Ghana. So I finished my final year exams. usually in your final year of medical school, you get given the chance to go anywhere in the world, practice or experience medicine, what healthcare is like in a different country. I automatically knew, okay, I'm going back to Ghana, because I had quite a long break of not going because of uni. And so I did that whole healthcare placement. And there was this young girl that was following me on Instagram, and she must have reached out with a lovely message. And then I did a little bit of a stalk on her and realized that she's actually doing amazing. Like she does a lot of volunteering in different schools, and she would definitely be somebody that would be a good contact to keep in relation to setting something up for me. So I messaged her to be like, okay, find me a school, get me about 100 girls in a room, let's do something. These times I had no clue what I was going to do. Even up until probably like a week before, it was just so out on a whim. I refused to sit down and just have all these worries come to mind and eventually put me off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done anything. And this is why I'm always a strong advocate for just starting. Anything that you have on your heart, anything that you want to do, just go for it. So eventually we sat down. I thought, okay, well, what are the key areas that I'm particularly passionate about? Definitely health, definitely education, and finally empowerment. So that formed the key parts of the workshop that we delivered to the students. But I thought, okay, yes, we want to deliver a workshop, get the girls involved in conversation, opening and creating dialogue about what are the real issues that are affecting you pursuing an education here in Ghana? How can we work to overcome them? But I don't want to leave you guys empty-handed. I want to help give you some tools to help, reduce that barrier. So that comes in the form of sanitary pads, tackling period poverty, educational supplies, stationery, hygiene products, as well as this book that I designed. It's like a journal or a booklet, but encouraging the young girls to build their self-esteem, confidence, self-awareness, and just in general, not seeing themselves or not seeing the fact that they have a voice as a taboo. Because a lot of the time back home in our cultures, we leave everything for the man to say, not necessarily enabling the female to also have a voice, also have an opinion. So we definitely encourage the girls to be confident in that aspect as well, but also self-worth and self-love. You shouldn't have to rely on somebody else to tell you that you are beautiful, you're amazing. You should know that yourself. So that is the Like Her project. So that first year, self-funded, I thought, okay, I'm giving this a go. This is a pilot. Self-funded that. Then it was amazing. We had great feedback. So then we went back last July. Obviously, if you want to go bigger and better, I need the support of my community. So I did a fundraiser. We raised about, I think, just over £1,000, which we managed to support about 400 girls, 2 schools. Usually, we say 100 girls per school. One school decided, give her all the girls. So literally, like, the room was probably about 200 to 300 girls. And obviously, the items that I've come with, max 150 girls. So a lot of the girls missed out on the donation items. And they'll be like, oh, miss, oh, doctor, we didn't get a bag. Oh. But I'm like, guys, I'll come back next time, don't worry. But literally, thank God, but how we've been able to curate the session is there's the educational and the workshop side of things is the most important, and leaving the girls feeling empowered. And one of the young girls wrote a letter after the session and handed it to us. She quickly wrote a letter, and in the letter she said, thank you so much for making me feel as though I am capable of changing the world, capable of changing my community, myself, but also for the next generation. I can't wait to share. And we had some girls being like, oh, can I be like a volunteer? I want to be an ambassador to create a group, have more conversations, do more work. And I'm like, my job here is done. We just need more girls to also feel the same way. So yeah.
That's so sick, man. And I love hearing stories like that. I know as you're talking, because you started off here. It was like you said, there was a week before. You didn't necessarily have a plan in place.
Yeah.
But then you just went, done it, and then look where it's going into.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it reminds me, I was watching an interview over the past couple of days, actually, this Drake interview, Rap Radar. It's like 2.5 hours long. So it took me,
Wow.
it took me a few days to
Yeah.
finish, but I liked it. And I just liked listening to the interview. More so for the cinematography, because I'm trying to get some ideas
Yeah.
for Fires and Voices and that. But the content was good as well. And he spoke about, I don't know if you know the song Stay Scheming, but he spoke about this song, where he was at Rick Ross's house and he was at Rick Ross's house. Rick Ross showed him a track. He was like, oh, I like that song. Quickly wrote a verse. They went that same day, recorded the video, and that's one of the biggest songs like that these guys have got out. Massive hit.
Yeah.
And it was on a whim, on the day, on a whim. It was, oh wow, what's that? Okay, let me record a verse.
I mean, the bottom line is just do, but you can think and plan later. And coming back from our July trip, that's when we went into planning mode. So I really sat down and thought, okay, well, this has, like, our 2 rounds have gone so well, and lots of people were keen to support, still want to show support, but we also have to think, well, I guess I have to think the bigger picture here. And for me, the bigger picture is the Like Her project will become one particular project that we deliver from the overall charity. And also we have to think sustainability. So following on from that July trip, the past 5-6 months has definitely been a lot of planning, a lot of behind the scenes work. We are almost ready to showcase / I guess our rebrand sometime next month, and essentially we'll be presenting the overall charity. We will definitely be doing more Like Her project activities March. So I'm coming back to the motherland very soon. We'll be launching our fundraising again. And we also have some exciting plans for the rest of the year.
Sure. Have you ever gone through any kind of a situation where you felt like this was a make or break situation?
In relation to?
Whether it's on a project you worked on, whether it's just personally, and then you just felt like this is long, this is difficult.
I wouldn't boil that down to a particular moment. It's definitely in relation to the Ghana project. As you mentioned, like doing anything back home. The struggle. So we're now officially registered both here in the UK and in Ghana. Both processes were long, were a headache. But then when you're also having to deal with how systems work back home. Here you can send an email, expect a reply 1 or 2 days. Back home, there's still the whole email thing they're not really up to speed, and everything's usually like you might have to write a letter and send it to somebody, or you might actually have to go and knock on the person's door in order for them to actually listen and respond. That's if you're lucky. And then if you want things to be done, and then they sense a little bit of, somebody from abroad, even though my team members try to minimize that. Oh, why don't you give us something small, you know? I'm just like, oh my gosh, it is headache. So I guess over that past, I want to say 3 months, it has lingered in my mind, like, what is the point? Why? I'm just giving myself headache for no reason. But I always think back to what we are doing, how it's impacting the girls, what the girls have said about it, and it just ends up being no-brainer. Why do I need to give up?
Yeah. People back home think money grows on trees over here.
Honestly, God,
that proper, man. But yeah, I guess it boils down to all of the experiences you've gone through as well. With you, first of all, with the Michelle Obama and her being so pivotal and talking about, well, the failure, but you can parallel and talk about, just really like pushing forward and not necessarily giving up. Then you've got your mum in that hard work aspect. And then I guess with all of that influence that you've had inside of you, you get situations like this. And I guess you've built up enough sort of, what would you even call it? Like capital, mental capital, whatever, that when you're faced with this, where some people are going to turn around and be like, what? Forget it. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
You've been able to, or you're still able to sort of power through. And you've got an amazing team around you as well.
100%. I think, I love how you mentioned that I've built that mental capacity, because I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, because sometimes when I'm speaking to peers or whatnot, and you might just, in the moment, you feel like saying, or you say, or like, what's the point? Or you feel like giving up, or you feel really stressed. or what I tend to say is, this is giving me headache. And, you know, as much as people say you have to be careful what you say and whatnot, which I 100% agree, but I think for me, I'm at the stage of sometimes I'll just say these expressions, but really and truly, that mental capacity, that mental block that, you know, has kept me, I guess, grounded and strong is always there. It's a wall that can't be broken down, thank God. But sometimes momentarily in those moments you will have those feelings, which I think is completely normal.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to drive change in their field, industry, in their life?
Oh, what advice? I would say definitely, in as much as sit down and think, I also would emphasize the need to, as we were saying, just go ahead and do. I think the longer you spend sitting down, planning, trying to make things perfect, the longer you'll dig yourself in the hole of not actually doing anything. And then you think, okay, well, I don't have XYZ to make an impact, therefore I shouldn't do anything at all. There's a saying that we say in Melanin Medics, and it's start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. For us at that time, 5 years ago, we had just 5 of us. We didn't have no source of funding, but what we did, one of the things that we did was literally, well, we can provide free help to students that want to study medicine. We can literally just go into schools and show up. That's the, you know, that's the littlest you can do that can have a major impact. If you go into schools, and we started as young as in year 2s, if you go into schools and young students, especially young black students, are seeing, okay, wow, you're a doctor, but you also kind of look like me, then that's it. That's my job done. And I remember one girl in year 2, yes, she's very young, and we asked the students, what do you want to be when you grow up? She said, I want to be like you. And I think that's one of the key moments I always keep to my heart, because that's what representation is about. She's a young girl. She's seen that doctors, at the time I was a medical student, but doctors have come into the room, played around with different clinical, you know, equipment, and they've had a little bit of fun. She realized that, oh wow, this woman, like, you know, we kind of look like each other, and maybe I want to be a doctor too. And that's it.
That's it, man. That's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
So, yeah.
That's it, man. Nice. That's the 1000 Voices podcast. Thank you for coming on to the podcast once again, Khadija.
Me.
And for now, people, we're out. Cool. All good.
Wee.